All right, guys. So what you're gonna need is to get out your pink, your yellow, and your blue highlighter, and we're gonna just go through about half of these notes up to about this point. So just make sure you're actually following along. Once you complete the ed puzzle, answer the questions, but also again complete your notes. Okay. All right. So remember, this is multiplying exponents. This is just like what we did the other week. So just remember, we want to multiply the bigs, or remember we call those the coefficients. And then we want to add the little numbers, or what we call exponents. Okay? All right, so starting off with this one, remember we want to start off with our coefficients, our big numbers, 3, 3, and 2, and we want to multiply. So 3 times 3, that's going to be 9, and then times 2, that's going to be 18. All right, then we move on to the next variable, x squared, x, and x to the negative 1. Don't forget, if a variable does not have an exponent, that means it's automatically a 1. Okay, so remember now we're just going to add up the exponents. So 2 plus 1, that's going to be 3, and then minus 1, that's going to be 2. So then we write x squared. All right, then the last variable we have here is y cubed again, and then just y by itself. And remember, again, that's automatically a 1 right there because there's nothing written above it. So it's 3 plus 1, that's going to be 7. So now we have y to the power of 7. And then that's it. That's our simplified expression. All right, so here's another one. All right, the next one, we only have 1, 2. So we're just going to bring that 2 down. There's nothing to multiply there. Then we'll go to our x variable, x to the negative 2, x to the 4. So now we've got negative 2 and 4. So remember, negative 2 plus 4, okay, that's basically the same as 4 minus 2. So that's going to be x to the power of positive 2. All right, then we move on to the y. Okay, for y, we've got negative 3, y to the power of negative 3, and y to the power of negative 2. We add those up, we're going to get negative 5. And remember our rules like we talked about last week, we cannot have negative exponents. The way we get rid of that is moving it to the bottom of the fraction or the denominator. So we just take that y, we move it down, and then that 5 becomes positive. And then everything else we just keep on top in the numerator. Okay, so basically we just move any variable that has a negative exponent, we just move it down. All right, so the next one, okay, we're going to start off, we have a 4. Okay, so that's the only thing we have there for coefficients, so we just bring that down. Then we've got x to the negative 1, x to the negative 1. Okay, negative 1 minus 1, that's going to give us negative 2. Then we've got y to the negative 1, y cubed. That's going to be y to the positive 2. And so we've got one negative exponent there. We're going to move that down. That goes down into the denominator. Everything else stays up. So now I just keep the 4 and the y squared on top in the numerator, and then where we go. All right. All right. One more that's like that. We're going to have 4 times 3. Okay. Start with their big numbers. That's going to be 12. And then we've got u to the minus 2 and u to the 4. So again, that's just like this one. Negative 2 plus 4. We're going to get positive 2. So u to the positive 2. And then lastly, we have the v cubed by itself. So that's the only v there. So there's nothing for us to add. So we're just going to bring that down. Okay. All right. Now, what's different about these? Notice that you've got parentheses, right? You've got parentheses here with an exponent that's on the outside of the parentheses. And I want you to think back when we first came back here back in August. Anytime you had a number right outside of parentheses that was basically touching the parentheses, we were multiplying. And so we're going to do the same idea here with exponents. If all you're doing is just multiplying the letters or variables, you're going to add them up. But if you've got an exponent outside of the parentheses, now we're going to actually multiply and almost like distribute that. Okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this 2 and I'm going to distribute to everything inside. First to the 2, and then I'm also going to distribute it to the x. Okay, so now this 2 becomes 2 to the second power. And this x, I multiply it times the negative 5. So 2 times negative 5, that becomes negative 10. Okay, so now I got a couple things going on here. First, I'm going to do 2 squared, which remember is 2 times 2. So that's going to be 4. And then the second thing is, just like the ones we had over here, we have a negative exponent, so we got to move that down. The 4 stays on top. The x to the 10 goes to the bottom. Okay? And again, as you guys go through this, if you need to pause the video, you can always pause, let yourself catch up. All right, so now we've got 6 on the outside. I'm going to distribute that. But before I distribute, I want you to realize that negative in front of the x, that's not just a negative, that's also a negative 1. That's a number there. Because remember, we automatically have a 1 in front of every variable. So when we distribute that 6 or multiply it, we're also going to distribute it there. I'm going to go distribute 6 to there, to the 2, and to that 2. And now when we have a negative number, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write it inside of parentheses, because if we don't, then we won't end up multiplying that negative, especially if you end up using a calculator to figure that out. Okay, you want to make sure you put that in parentheses. Okay, so now 2 times 6, x to the 12, and then same here, 2 times 6, y to the 12. All right, so now next thing I want to do is multiply out this negative 1 to the 6. So really remember, when you raise a number to that certain power, you're multiplying it that many times. Okay, so when I enter this in, I'm going to put parentheses, negative 1 to the 6th power. So remember, that's like negative 1 times negative 1 and so on 6 times. So that's actually going to be a positive 1 because I'm multiplying it in an even number of times. So now I've got positive 1, x to the 12, and y to the 12. Okay? All right, so remember, all of these, we're just going to be distributing that exponent. We're going to multiply it every time. So the negative 3 times the 6, negative 3 times the negative 2. Same rules apply. Negative times negative is a positive, even with exponents. So negative 6 times negative 3 is 18. Negative 2 times negative 3 is going to be positive 6. All right, and that's it for that one. And remember, again, you want to distribute or multiply that exponent to each term. Okay, so here I'm going to multiply it to the 6 and to the exponent on the x. Okay, so now what this becomes is 6 to the 3, or 6 times 6 times 6, and then x to the negative 12. Okay, so a lot like this one, where I'm going to have to first multiply out this number and then move that negative exponent. Okay, so first let's multiply out 6 to the 3rd power. Okay, so that's 216. And then let's move that negative exponent. So now we just move it down. Okay, and there it's simplified just like that. Okay, all right, so now this next one, we've got 4 to the negative 3, 4 to the 2, and 4 to the 6. We're going to remember multiply it out. Remember, if it's a negative number, just like this one, we want to put it in parentheses. So negative 3 to the 4th power, 4 times 2, x to the 8, 4 times 6, y to the 24. All right, so now we just need to figure out that negative 3 to the 4th power. So again, I'm going to put that in parentheses. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. If some of you guys might already know it, but if you need to use a calculator, it's totally fine. Okay, so that'll be 81, x to the 8, and then y to the 24. Okay. All right, so now the next ones, we're going to go 3 to the 2, 3 to the 3. Again, another negative number, so we want to put that in parentheses. Okay, and then 3 times 3, that's going to be 9 there. All right, so again, we want to figure this one out. This is negative 2. Remember, this is an odd number this time. So negative 2 to the 3rd power, if I raise a negative number to an odd power, it's going to be negative. Okay, so that's negative 8. Okay, again, that's why it's so important to put those in parentheses. And let me show you what happens when I don't. So like, for instance, on this one, if all I do is I enter negative 3 to the 4th power like that, notice it's negative, but it's not supposed to be. because we're multiplying a negative an even number of times, what the computer is doing, it's following like PEMDAS rules, and it's going exponents first, and then it's multiplying this negative after. So that's why we want to make sure we put in parentheses so that it does it all together. Okay, so again on this one, distribute the 5 to the 2, 5 to the y. This is 2 to the 5, and then y to the 2 times 5, which is 10. And then we just got to figure out 2 to the 5th power. 2 to the 5th power, it's 32. Okay, so then it's y to the 10. 32 times y to the 10th power. Okay, all right. Now this one, distribute that negative 3 to the 4. Distribute the negative 3 to the negative 4, or the exponent negative 4. So now this one's a little different because now the number, the coefficient, has a negative exponent. I'll show you what to do in a second. All right, so now negative 3 times negative 4, that one will be positive 12. So first thing, because I have a negative exponent, we're actually going to move the number down this time, okay, or the coefficient. So we'll move that down, and then we will multiply out 4 to the 3rd power. So now 4 raised to the 3rd power, 4 times 4 times 4, that's going to be 64. So 64 goes on the bottom, or the denominator. Okay, and x squared over, sorry, not squared, it's 12. X to the 12 over 64. Okay, all right, last 4 here. So now 2 goes to the 6, 2 goes to the 5, 2 goes to the 3. Just got to make sure we distribute to each one. So 6 squared, x to the 5th, sorry, not 5, that's going to be 5 times 2, that's going to be 10. Okay, and then y to the negative 6. So we're going to have to square the 6, 6 squared, 6 times 6, that's 36. And then x to the 10, y to the negative 6. And then lastly, we just move that negative exponent. Again, we just move them down. Okay, all right, a few more here. 2 to the 5 to the 2, 5 to the negative 4, 5 to the 6. That's another 2 to the 5. We've already done that. We did that on number 11. Okay, then y to the u to the negative 20, and then v to the 30. Okay, so we already know that 2 to the 5 is 32. And then the last thing we just need to do is move this negative exponent. So we're going to move that down, move the u down, so it becomes positive. Remember, every time you move it, make it positive. And then it's just 32 on top, and then v to the 30 on, also on top. Okay, last 2 here. Now these ones are like combining everything we've done. We're going to both multiply the exponents and exponents at the same time. But just like our PEMDAS rules, multiply first. So we're going to do the powers first. Okay, so 3 to the 2, 3 to the 8, 3 to the 5. Okay, that's going to be 8 because it's 2 to the 3rd power. And then 3 times 8, that's 24 there. N to the negative 5 times 3, that's negative 15. And then n 13 and 8, we're just bringing everything else down because we didn't do anything with the rest of the expression. Now, just like the original ones like we did up here, now we need to start by multiplying the bigs, or the coefficients. 8 times 2, that's 16. And now we just have a lot more variables to add up. So remember, now that we're multiplying here, there's no parentheses, we're going to add exponents. So 24 plus 13, and then plus 5 for m. So for m, that's going to be m to the power 42. Okay, and then for n, we've got negative 15, let's see, plus 8, and then plus minus 12, that's negative 19. Okay, and then you can see that we've got a negative, so now we just need to move that one down to the denominator. Okay, all right, last one here. Okay, so again, start with the ones in parentheses, so distribute, first multiply that exponent. All these 2, we're just going to bring them down to the next step. So that'll be u to the minus 16, 2 times negative 8, 5 times negative 8, that's going to be v to the negative 40. Okay, and then we're just going to combine the ones that are the same. So U and it goes to U, and then V goes to V. So now I've got, let's see, 7 minus 16 is the first one. So we got U to the -9. And then we've got 11 minus 40. So they're both going to be negative. I'll show you what to do here. So since they're both have to move down, they're both going to move to the denominator like this. Since there's really nothing left, we're going to put a 1, because technically, think about it, every time there's no number in front of a variable, there's always a 1, so we can keep that 1 on the top. Okay? All right, so remember, you guys are going to be finishing your IXL assignments, so make sure you guys go on Schoology, finish the IXL that we started yesterday. I know a lot of you guys didn't finish, and then you're going to start a new Delta Math assignment. And then if you guys finish early, if some of you guys finish early, then just go ahead and make up any other work you guys have posted, okay? All right, we'll see you guys on Thursday. I'll be back here Wednesday if you guys need any help with anything. Come by at lunch.